Hey everyone, Alex Italander here. Before we get this week's Behind the Ostium started, I just wanted to talk about the Ostium sagas. It's a spin off series I've come up with where Steve finds an ancient tome hidden in the Ostium network and begins recording the stories within its pages of people going through Ostium doors and getting stuck in whatever time they're in. Right now, it's only being released on our Patreon. However, you can get instant access to the number of episodes already released by becoming a patron at any level. To do that, all you have to do is head on over to patreon.com/ostiumpodcast and become a member for as little as $1 or $2 a month and start listening to this original series. New episodes are released every week, and the Ostium Saga is going to be running for a long time. Once again, that's patreon.com/ostiumpodcast. Okay, on with this week's Behind the Ostium. Here we are again with another Behind the Ostium, and this time we're diving into episode 38. The story of Steve. The storyline I knew I was kind of building to for the last few episodes as I was writing them, that I was going to have to just have a whole Steve episode because I just love hearing the sound of my voice. No, it's because I needed to learn what the heck was Steve's storyline and what really went on with him. So this is the episode where we finally get to understand the duality of Dave/Steve, or do we? Because there's more in season 6. The descriptive intro right at the beginning of the episode was kind of a moment of calm, if you will, for the season, as Dave is describing how everything looks going down the cable car, just enjoying this kind of beautiful place he's in, where the weather always stays the same. And again, it was like a little moment of rest before we kick into the next thing. So a chance for the listener to get a nice breath of fresh air, if you will. Audio air. This was the point I'd made the decision for the pronouns for Jean, that they're going to be they, them. And we still have issues trying to remember that, as we do. But it's something I wanted to keep because it felt like it worked right for the character. And I feel like, I don't know yet, but it's something that's going to come out more as I learn more about the character of Jean. So we now get the other piece of the puzzle filled in with Steve's story, as he's telling it to Monica and Jake. We have the guards that come for Steve to take him on his first journey off the network, that they're similar to the ones from that Monica was showing, and from the bodies we've seen in previously in the other episodes and stuff like that. Did you pick on that at all, Dwayne, that they were similar? I mean, the key here is that they're similar names, but they're not exactly the same names. Were you able to notice that?
Yes, I did write down Keelan and Takaya told Steve he was picked to go through the door. And then later on, Monica will say that, and I forgot to write down the real name. That's or maybe Takana, that was the real name.
Yeah, no, I think you got it right. Takana, and I can't remember the other one now. Yeah, exactly. Good. So it was a fun, nice little build up here with Steve, knowing he is essentially taking the first step. He's, it's a tough situation where he's not going to be able to tell his mom, and he doesn't know what's really going to happen. But it's also the, first step for Ostium kind in going through the door and doing this from the start. And that at some level he knows he's also the guinea pig, and they don't necessarily know what's going to happen. And there's obviously risk involved, but there's also the thrill of exploration and discovery and finding out what the whole thing that they've been building up to, if anything, for 3 seasons of Ostium, with the making of the Ostium network and what it's all there for. And here's a moment of, what is it going to do? What's going to happen? What's it going to be like? The music in the episode is piano music, similar. It's different pieces, but it's the same artist that I've been using from the earlier episodes in the season for Steve's parts. So they kind of link it with him there. You do get the origin of the video that Steve recorded for Monica on the weird kind of split world he's in with Mars and Roanoke and the Mary Celeste. So this kind of seeds that little moment in time of where did that come from, and that goes again right back to season 1, episode 7, I think, or something like that, of Ostium. From the back to the very beginning. So it was kind of fun to fill in that little puzzle piece there, put that in the spot. So the fractured world that Steve's in when he sees that everything's messed up is really when it hits him that these guys don't really know what they're doing. It was all just guesswork all along, and they were doing whatever they could. And they don't also know the ramifications of what they're doing too, and what will happen in the future. But at that point, it's kind of too late for him because he's already stuck there. And that's when things go crazy and he gets sucked into a different timeline, a different world, and set in a different year compared to Jake's timeline and Monica's original timeline from the future. I chose the 90s because it's a time when I know well, and also it's fun to play with some memories of my own that I have, but also stuff like the early days of the internet with the GeoCities website, which I actually had at one point, a GeoCities website. It was actually very funny the way they used to do it, because it was all free, and you would actually pick your neighborhood you could go in, and then your little like street. It was almost like Sims or something, where you're picking your location to where you wanted to house your website. So it was fun playing around with all that. All right, Dwayne, what you got?
So one of the things I have is always take extra underpants.
Oh, yep.
Is it very Douglas Adams of you to put that in there?
That was definitely, as I was rereading over that and re-listening to that, it was definitely, oh yeah, that's what I was definitely going for there.
So yeah, the mixed up Roanoke, Mars, Mary Celeste, actually reminds me of some of the things Jake himself goes through, as he's dealing with the blackness.
We mean from the Dark Side of the Moon episode?
Yeah, like where he sees, like where he's in his office building and sees the other different versions of himself.
Right.
It was just a very well, I wanted to say controlled, because Steve was the test subject going through the door, so it was a controlled test, but what went on was definitely beyond any of their control and any of their expectations. Yep. So, and you did cover this, because I actually wrote down a question: did the background music play into your decision to use it? Because I thought it fit very well with the scene. So, and St. Stephen's Hospital is where he ends up. Is that like just a play on his name, Steve?
Yeah.
When he
okay. I mean, that was kind of how he decided on his name for picking and stuff like that too. And it was also like Google around and see what location works.
Okay,
it's a real place. Yeah,
because I was like, it. Not that it seems like a dream sequence, but it kind of makes it seem like it's a dream. Like Steve's not even really awake. Everything he went through was all a dream. And
we kind of see and again with the scene is actually in the I think it's the next episode of how Monica's like, he's telling a different truth here, or just lying, or whatever. Something's not right, it's off. And that was kind of my intention with having these weird little details too of stuff. Just like, this doesn't seem quite right. It's a witness who doesn't remember the details and the events as they actually happened and things like that. Yeah.
And then he starts Emu and finds Jake's recordings about Ostium, which no one else can find.
Yep.
So only Steve was able to find Jake's recordings, because he himself has ties to Ostium, of course.
And the weird kind of thing of, it's the 90s, the internet is very new and young, and yet, podcasts are barely a thing yet, but he's doing that and doing these different things and being able to find these Ostium recordings. Yeah.
In some research I did, because I had thought about this, but I don't know that I ever did any research on it. Why is a podcast called a podcast? I never really put too much effort into finding out, but then I found out why. Adam Curry of MTV, from MTV, was originally creating things you could download to your iPod, and they became known as podcasts. They were Adam Curry doing his interview type things, and it just stuck, just like so
it's,
many
it's
things.
Apple still having its indelible
Exactly.
thumbprint on everything, even though they're the worst infrastructure and app and everything for podcasting and yes.
That was all I had for that episode.
Cool.
But yeah, other than the names Bob and Eileen, his mom and dad, were they taken from anything?
No, I was just going for very English names
Okay.
that just came to me, and I think they stuck. Yeah.